Summary of Emma by Jane Austen. Emma Woodhouse, who is rich, beautiful, and spoiled, thinks she is a great matchmaker. Emma thinks she set up the marriage of her governess to Mr. Weston, a wealthy widower, so she meets Harriet Smith, a poor girl, and tries to help her in the same way. She is sure that her friend Harriet deserves a gentleman, even though no one knows where Harriet came from. She tries to get Harriet to turn down Mr. Martin, a farmer who Emma thinks is beneath Harriet. Instead, she tries to get Harriet to like Mr. Elton, the priest in the area. Mr. Knightley, Emma's brother-in-law and longtime friend, tries to stop Emma from setting up dates. It turns out that all the signs Emma thought showed that Mr. Elton was interested in Harriet were actually meant for Emma. Harriet is sad, and Emma is embarrassed. Mr. Elton moves to Bath because he feels humiliated that Emma turned him down and tried to pair him with Harriet. Emma sees that her pride in her own judgment and her feelings for Harriet kept her from seeing the truth. She decides that she will never again try to set people up. Another smart and beautiful young woman, Jane Fairfax, goes back to Highbury to see her aunt and grandma, Miss Bates and Mrs. Bates. Jane lost her mother when she was young, so her father's friends, the Campbells, raised and taught her. She has no money of her own, so she will likely become a babysitter. Emma is both happy and jealous to see her because she is another popular person in their group. Emma also thinks that Jane is having an affair with Mr. Dixon, the husband of her friend. Frank Churchill, Mr. Weston's son, is also due to come after many delays. Mr. and Mrs. Churchill, his snobby aunt and uncle, live with him in London. Emma is looking forward to seeing him and likes him a lot. On the other hand, Mr. Knightley hates him right away because he thinks he is shallow and stupid. Frank's compliments soon make it clear that Emma is the one he wants. Mr. Elton comes back from Bath with his new wife, the haughty Mrs. Elton, who likes Jane but doesn't like Emma. As different characters guess about growing relationships, they often get things wrong. People have different ideas about who loves whom based on word games, riddles, and messages. Emma likes Frank's attention, but she decides in the end that she doesn't want to be with him. Mrs. Weston thinks that Mr. Knightley and Jane might be a good match, but Emma strongly disagrees. When Mr. Elton ignores Harriet, Mr. Knightley saves her from social humiliation by asking her to dance. Emma supports what she thinks is Harriet's growing interest in Frank, who freed her from the gypsies a long time ago. Frank and Emma are liked by everyone, but Mr. Knightley thinks Frank likes Jane and warns Emma. Emma laughs off his warning because she thinks she knows what's in each character's heart. When Mr. Knightley tells her off for making fun of the gentle Miss Bates, she feels very bad and decides to act better around the Bateses. When Mrs. Churchill dies, Frank and Jane's secret engagement is revealed. This is a shocking event. Frank's courtship of Emma was a way to hide how he really felt about her, which Frank's aunt didn't like. After a series of hurtful mistakes, Jane ended the engagement and was about to start working as a governess. Frank quickly asked his uncle for permission to marry her, and the two got back together. Emma also had the wrong idea about Harriet's feelings for Frank, since Harriet turns out to be in love with Mr. Knightley. Emma's sadness about this news leads her to realize that she, too, is in love with Mr. Knightley. Emma is in a lot of pain because she has wrong ideas about Frank, Jane, Harriet, and herself. She scolds herself for letting her own wants and needs get in the way. Emma thinks Mr. Knightley will tell Harriet that he loves her, but to her surprise and joy, he tells her that he loves her instead. Emma says yes to Mr. Knightley's proposal, and she and Frank later talk about how, despite their many mistakes, they've both been luckier than they deserve with their loves. Emma is even happier when she hears that Harriet has said yes to Mr. Martin's second offer. The book ends with 3 marriages: Harriet and Mr. Martin, Jane and Frank, and Emma and Mr. Knightley, which is praised as a happy union of equals.
About the author. Jane Austen was born in the town of Steventon, where her father was the parish priest. She and her family lived there until 1801 when they moved to Bath. Even though her parents were part of the English nobility, they stayed poor. Jane Austen was very modest about how good her work was, but she still wrote some of the best books ever written in English, like Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, Emma, and Persuasion. Her books were released without anyone knowing who wrote them until after she died. During Austen's time, it was not unheard of for women to write under their own names, but it was rare. Even though her books are about the complicated ways that British middle-class people date and get married, Austen herself never got married. She liked being a writer more than being a wife and companion.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.